Start. It is WrestleMania season, most exciting part of the season from a wrestling fan's perspective, anyway. And obviously, as we're nearer WrestleMania, we wanted to bring one. We've had some great guests on nearer WrestleMania in the past, but today we've got someone that's been there, seen it, done it, been in the thick of it, held many roles in the WWE, from a backstage announcer to commentator to executive assistant to even a GM at some point. It's the one, the only Mr. Jonathan Coachman. How are you doing?
Man, it's a thrill, and I apologize to your audience beforehand. When we're recording this, I had to go to the dentist today, so half of my face is numb. It kind of reminds me of like 2004 when I got smacked in the face by Brock Lesnar or John Cena. It feels kind of like that, but I'm thrilled to be here. And isn't technology a great thing that you can be in England and I can be in California and we can have a great conversation? I love it. So thank you for having me.
No, Jonathan, thank you for coming on. Actually, I'm going to call you Coach, if that's okay.
Please do
Coach.
that.
That's
Yes.
better. No, thank you for taking the time. I know your schedule is hectic. We were talking just before we come on. You're
Yeah.
doing very, very busy with stuff. So we're very appreciative of your time. Hopefully you'll
Sure.
enjoy this show. But look, Jonathan, sorry, Coach, it is WrestleMania season. From a performance standpoint in the WWE, like I've said, you've held many roles there.
Yeah.
What is WrestleMania season like inside the WWE?
Yeah, that's a great question to start with. And I was actually a part of 16 WrestleManias.
Wow.
I was there for 11 straight. Then I went to ESPN here in the States, and we went to several more. And at least when I was there, and I hope it's still kind of like this, because it was always kind of think of it as a pyramid, that as we got closer, everybody kind of, the momentum would sped up. And I tell people all the time, it's a competition. And I'll have fans who may be young fans or don't understand. They're like, no, coaches, predetermined, or everybody knows. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Back when I was there, and they've changed it a little bit, Adam, but they made $1 million. If you were in the main event at WrestleMania, you made $1 million. So you had top guys in any one year. When I was there, I remember Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, The Rock, Triple H, Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian, Kane, Undertaker. I mean, those were all main event guys. And so you really felt it, and they really raised the level of their performance, kind of, I would say, from the last pay-per-view. Because remember, I grew up in the pay-per-view era. And in the pay-per-view era is about how many are you selling. Now they're called PLEs. Yeah. Now it's about, they're showing on Netflix and Peacock and all this. And so they put the shows together storyline-wise instead of who is the biggest draw and who's going to be in the main event. I loved WrestleMania. WrestleMania week was my favorite. We would go straight from Raw to wherever the WrestleMania city was. And from Tuesday all the way to the next Monday, we were busy all the time, especially guys like me. They were always sending me to Fan Fest, and I would do appearances. I would host the press conferences. I loved being a guy that could kind of do it all. And so whenever Vince McMahon needed something, I could step in and do it. And that allowed me over the years to really elevate my status within the company.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I've been lucky enough to attend five. Five? Yes,
Wow.
five. Went to 21 and then consecutively 25, 26, 27, and 28. So
Wow.
I've been lucky. I'm fortunate. Listen, to go once is a dream.
Yes.
To do it
Yes.
5 times is brilliant. And I've loved everyone for many different reasons. Met some of the greats, like you mentioned there, The Undertaker, John Cena, etc. I had the privilege of being able to meet those guys. But it kind of never stops. And we had Rob Van Dam on a couple of weeks ago, and it was a question I asked him, and I didn't expect the answer actually from him. So I wanted to ask you though.
Sure.
Wrestling doesn't have an off season. It doesn't take a break. It's a constant thing. And I said to Rob, do you think that like wrestling would have benefited from, say, like you had WrestleMania, you have the Raw after WrestleMania, and then just say, for an example, it then decided we're going to have a 2 week break where we do some highlight shows on TV and then it gives those talents that 2 week respite. Do you think yourself that wrestlers would have enjoyed that or would it have been good for them? Or do you think it would have been more of along the lines of what Van Damme said was it was kind of a double-edged sword? Yes, but also it's kind of their devil to have the time off in a lot of senses.
It is, but there is no question. I've always complained about this. Try to imagine this. If Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and the Chiefs or the Eagles were playing a game the next week, would you really enjoy winning the Super Bowl?
No.
Would you really be able to celebrate that? Absolutely not. The guys, and you talk about a double-edged sword. There's a party every Sunday night after WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I was at one that I remember Cena was in the main event. I can't remember who he was fighting, but it's like 1:30 in the morning, 2:00 in the morning. They're just now walking into the party. Everybody else in the company that worked there, that was on the road, they got to enjoy it from 10 o'clock, 10:30 on. The guys that made all the money, the guys that were the important ones, as I call it, the main eventers, they're wrestling till 11 o'clock. They're wrestling until, and then you got to fight traffic and get back. To me, not only would the wrestlers benefit from it, the fans would benefit from it. That's my one big thing about wrestling. It's such a unique business, but you don't need 52 weeks of programming. Look at it right now. They're struggling to get to the finish line, and they're trying to come up with different ways overseas for Raw to make this thing fresh, and they still have 3 more weeks to go. And to me, when you're ramping up to one of the big 4, and this is the biggest one, your storyline should be going like this. It should not be going like this. So 100%, I hated the fact that I had to get up in the morning. Sometimes Raw was in the same city.
Yeah.
Sometimes it wasn't.
No.
There was nothing worse than getting drunk after WrestleMania and then having to get up and drive to the next town. I always thought that Vince was very, very stubborn about it. I felt like he looked at the business as this is the way it's always been. It's a 52-week grind. It doesn't matter. But to me, to make WrestleMania truly special, it's got to stand alone, and then you don't see anybody for a minimum of 2 weeks. But the problem is they cut these deals with the Netflixes and the USAs, and it's so much money that 2 weeks, USA or Netflix, they could lose millions and millions of dollars because of the way that it's put together. But there's no question in my mind. I wish they started it now, because if Tom Cruise was on TV 52 weeks a year, you wouldn't want to see him the 53rd.
Yeah.
It's always made no sense to me, and I've always hated it.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of sort of the 2-week break would be nice, even from a fan perspective, because there is fan base after all, right? We want this program, to give you an idea. We review Raw, we review SmackDown, we review TNA, NWA, and AEW. So we do a lot of those. We're coming up to 1,000 episodes of this show. It's been going 3 years.
Congratulations!
Thank you. That gives you an idea, though, of So there is that fan burnout thing as well. But you touched on 2 things, and I wanted to bring them up actually later on, but it's actually good now because you've touched on it. One of those being wrestling, sort of WWE over here in Europe, and doing a lot of stuff. Now, usually that happens after WrestleMania. They do the WrestleMania Revenge Tour or whatever it was called. My feeling is right now on the last few weeks is that the crowds have saved the program, in my opinion, on the last few. I've enjoyed some of the action. Don't get me wrong. Some of the matches, like Penta had a great match this week with Braun Breaker, etc. But I've just felt that it's not hitting right now. I don't know if that's something you agree with or what, but for me,
no.
Watching it, but I don't know.
That's why I'm laughing, because in Brussels, which is a non-English speaking crowd, they knew the chants and they were red hot. You got to remember, my first WrestleMania was March 16th, and that was WrestleMania 16.
Yep.
This year, WrestleMania is April 20th.
Yep.
Or 19th and 20th. You're adding 4 or 5 weeks onto storylines that are already really hard. I've said this, and nobody will, well, WWE won't agree with me, but they don't have enough talent right now. And when you're throwing out 3 hours of Netflix, 3 hours of SmackDown, and 2 hours of NXT, and then you got Evolve, and then you got all this kind of stuff, right now they're really spread thin. You are spot on with your analysis of those shows overseas. And I thought that the talent would be over there for the entire 20 days. When we used to go after WrestleMania, we would go for 10 days. We would leave on the Tuesday after Raw, and then we'd have house shows Wednesday all the way to the next Tuesday or Wednesday, and then have one Raw. The reason they had to do it this way is because of John Cena. He's filming a movie, and there's no way that he can come back and forth. They still had 2 weeks from when Cena turned heel to when we saw him in Brussels. That was a huge drop-off for me as a fan. Yeah, because I wanted to hear from him the next night. I wanted to hear from him the next week. And then also, you can't have The Rock. And I would tell The Rock this. I would tell Brian Gerwitz, who I text with from time to time, his right hand. You're playing to the fan base watching as much as you're playing to the fan base in the arena. And if this stemmed from The Rock starting this, why would The Rock not be on the show for the last 3
Exactly.
weeks?
Yeah.
And to me, that's a huge loss. And then the other thing was when we used to go to European crowds, let's use Italy for an example. It could be anywhere, but they see WWE. Brussels had never seen WWE.
No.
Other places, maybe once a year, maybe once every 2 or 3 years. So if that's going to be the case, and they're going to be red hot anyway, their mentality is, oh, well, whoever we throw out there, they'll enjoy it. My mentality would be, this is special. Let's give them Punk. Let's give them Roman Reigns. Let's give them all of our top guys because they're selling out and they deserve it, and we don't get over here very often. The problem is they did 3 weeks. And when he got 3 weeks, none of the guys want to stay over there for 3 weeks, so they've been going back and forth. So I think it's a double-edged sword. I have not enjoyed the shows that much. I think they're very top-heavy right now. And I also don't like 2 nights of WrestleMania. I think it's too much. I think it becomes a participation PLE instead of who has the best storylines, who is doing the best, and then they earn those 5 or 6 matches. I think it's way too much because TKO, the parent company, wants every last dollar. And that's just fact.
Yeah, it is. You answered that my other question, which was going to be about the 2 nights, about you disagreeing. I tell you what, one of the things that I've and I've mentioned I've not been enjoying the last couple of weeks, and I'll give you another thing why. What I used to love about the build-up, there was a couple of things, and I'll touch on one other thing in a minute. But the other thing that I really used to like was the guys in the main events, like your John. I remember vividly, there was a Raw, and I think it was leading up to WrestleMania 22, I want to say. And they done like WrestleMania Rewind matches. And it was John Cena, I think, against Big Show or someone along like Shawn Michaels took on, I think it might even been Triple H or someone along those lines. What I've not liked about it, and you kind of hit it on the head, he took 2 weeks to come out. I'll talk about the heel turn separately in a minute. It took 2 weeks to come and explain it. And then all we've had is like Cena's come out, cut his stuff. Cody's come out smiling, and I'm like, he's just whipped your ass and you're kissing babies. And I know the point of that is he's now the captain of the team, right? I get that. But if you've had your ass handed to you on a pay-per-view, I remember when Triple H used to come out with a sledgehammer the next night. That's my thing. But going back to my point is, I would have preferred some tune-up matches with these 2 in. I know John's was going to be very difficult because I think only Austin Theory's left from his WrestleMania past, but you could have had Seth and Cody go again. Would that have been better rather than just having this back and forth talking on the mic every week?
So you're really, really smart. You're really smart. You see a lot of things. The first thing that we used to do is if there were 2 big matches at WrestleMania, you'd see a combination of tag team matches to where at least you see them in action. The problem is that Cena is 40-some years old and he's not in ring shape and he's filming a movie. So you can't just throw him in there. And he worked in Elimination Chamber, and that took a lot out of him. I don't think people realize how much a chamber match takes out of your body. It takes you a little bit to recover. Then you've got a Roman Reigns who I give him a pass. He's walking around with cancer. He still has leukemia, so you have to be very, very careful with him. But the whole Cody thing, and I do a show with Vince Russo, the legendary writer. Yep. He would hug you right now because it drives him insane when he says everything has got to be from a reality-based place. Yeah. Meaning if I beat the hell out of you, the next time that you saw me, you should want to come out and kick my ass. Yeah. And I know he's got a great entrance. And I know that the crowd loves to do it because Seth Rollins does the same damn thing every time. Why are we taking 3 or 4 minutes to come out and confront a guy that just kicked you in the nuts? Come out and confront a guy who just said, I'm going to take your title and I'm going to retire with it. So you got to come out and make another. Why would we wait 3 or 4 minutes for that and then get fired up in the ring? It seems like to me that because of the new management, and we saw Triple H talk about this the first night of Netflix, and Rock has leaned into it, and this is where I kind of disagree. I don't know if you saw this kid. He's a special ed kid. He's a Make-A-Wish kid, and he put a video out the other day talking about John Cena. I believed in you. Yeah. John Cena, you probably saw that, right? For a lot of people, this is real. This is not watching a soap opera or a movie. These are real people in front of them who happen to be characters with names. And when I walk through airports and people come up, I'm the coach.
Yeah.
I'm not Jonathan Coachman who sits back here in an office and does different shows. I'm the coach. And so you want to have as close to that as possible. And they've literally said, this is a show. When the show is over, this is who we are. When the show is on, this is who we are. Well, I would show everybody that video of that young kid that said, the Cena I used to know. Kids 8 to 15, they believe in these guys. And so if you look at Cody Rhodes and you're a 14-year-old kid, or hell, even a 25-year-old kid, and you want to believe that it's real, well, real is him walking out and running to the ring and squaring up.
Yeah.
It's not coming doing the, oh, which I love. And so sorry that was a long-winded answer for you're spot on. And I wish that Triple H and that writing team would get back to saying, first question in the room, would this happen in real life? In a real fight, would this happen? And start there. But they don't do that. They start with, this is Hollywood. That's what they do.
Yeah, it is indeed. And funny enough, you mentioned Vince Russo. He's been on here twice. We've loved having Vince on.
Oh, awesome.
He's been great. We have the same kind of thing. We mentioned a kind of bit to that. I want to sidetrack a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about, you mentioned The Rock, and you've had some amazing, funny backstage interviews with him.
Yeah.
I remember watching one the other day just to trigger my memory, and I think he ended it with beat it, wash your ass, and things like that. You know, it's just The Rock being a and this may be due, I don't know if you took classes or anything like that. How hard was it not to break when The Rock is doing his spiel on you face to face and you're just holding this microphone, like maybe biting your lip? I don't know.
Well, early on, it wasn't hard at all because you got to remember that most of the time, Vince is standing about 4 or 5 feet away. And so when I started, I was terrified of Vince and I wasn't super comfortable. I was very young. I was in my early 20s. So, but he always taught me. A lot of my style now is based off of things that he taught me, how I talk, how animated I am, forgetting that the red light comes on. I tell young kids all the time, you can't worry about the red light. You got to worry about performing. And I'll never forget the reason I love The Rock so much. And I know I just criticized him. I get that. But he would understand that and he'd respect that. But that's where he is in his career right now. I just happen to not agree with it. But the very first time I was ever on TV, January 8th, 2000, Chicago, Illinois, I'll never forget it. And in this business, the last thing that most people will ever do, especially for a backstage announcer who's just starting, is try to put them over. Yeah. Especially when you're a guy like The Rock. And I came in when he was just shooting to the moon. I remember watching, the first night I met him was in Kansas City a few months before that. I remember he walked into the arena, and I remember saying, he's not built like the rest of us. He's different. God has made him different than you and I. People look at him like he's literally a god, and he walks around like it. Unpretentious, of course. But then fast forward to Chicago, and he calls me into the office, and he's with Brian, and they're writing our little skit. And he's like, hey, man, let's do something different tonight. I'm so used to just making fun of people. Let's do it reverse. Instead of doing it at the beginning, it doesn't matter what you like. He says, hey, let's not act like I'm stupid. I don't know you. We've never been on together. So how about you start? You're very cautious because you've also watched. You're not stupid. And say, hey, Rocket, whoa. Who the hell are you? It's okay. You can tell The Rock, well, and I'm very cautious. Well, my name's Jonathan Coachman, but they call me the coach. He's like, the coach? The coach of what? The coach of a little girl softball team? Blah, 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 blah. He said my name 8 or 9 times. And that's another thing I learned. It's all about branding. And if you say it, the fan base will receive it and they will use it. That's what wrestling is all about. And so we get to the end of the interview and he goes, so why do they call you the coach? Well, now I'm comfortable. Now I'm feeling like we're buddies. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's it doesn't matter what so we reversed it. I walked out of the building that night and everybody in the back that was asking for autographs and pictures, coach. It took one night. And so we then got more and more comfortable. And I'll never forget, there was one time where he was talking and he was the only person that was allowed to do his promos on SmackDown, which was a taped show, live, because there was so much crowd interaction. Yeah. So everybody else, it was taped and they'd roll it in the edit. So I'll never forget, we're supposed to do it. He was going to grab the microphone and yank it out of my hand and then push me off. And so he grabs the top of the microphone, pulls it, and I'm still holding on to the cord. So he's got the top of the microphone, I have the cord. And Kevin Dunn, our producer, is screaming in my ear, put it back together, put it back together. Well, now he literally doesn't even faze him because in his mind, he knows they'll be able to edit this later if they needed to. He calmly reached over, put it back together. Now, as The Rock was saying, and then when you and the crowd live went bananas, I'm standing there going, man, this is the coolest guy I've ever been around. And I also learned if you make a mistake as a host, as a wrestler, as an entertainer, as a talent, don't overreact. They'll only receive what you give them. And if you overreact, then they'll know, oh, they made a mistake. The crowd never knew. They thought it was part of the skit. And so it was really hard at times when he would say the funny things like the one with Bessie and the cow. Because I also grew up in Kansas, and my mom's family are all farmers. My mom was pissed. She was pissed. And we would try to write funny things in of what we would do in real life. But, man, do I love that guy for what he taught me, for the entertainer that he is. He has deserved everything. I work really hard now in a lot of different capacities, but that guy grinds every single day. I'm a huge fan. I love him to death, and nobody can ever take that stuff away from us.
No, definitely not. And and he does. I mean, he probably does more now than what he's ever done before, which is absolutely incredible. You kind of sort of went to a commentary as well at one point. And again, always the skit that gets played is the Kane pyro. I feel that because I've shit myself many times when Kane's pyro is hit. But the commentary stuff, because obviously then you've got JR, you've got the King, and what people obviously now know, which they didn't know, you have someone in your ear constantly. What were the differences? I mean, obviously you mentioned you had Kevin Dunn there as you have Vince standing watching it. How different is it from backstage to in that commentary booth with JR and the King?
Oh gosh, I mean, it is they're two completely different worlds. An interview, most interviewers, I was allowed to do a little bit more, but most, especially now, they're all female. And you ask a question and then you hold it. And as long as you hold the microphone, you're going to do pretty good. I would see people, and I remember there's a guy named Mike Adamley. He's pretty sick right now. Mike Adamley came from American Gladiators, and that was one of the biggest shows ever. He was so nervous with Vince watching that his hand would shake. They couldn't use him because his hand would shake so much. And I think he did they paid him for a year, and he was on TV a couple of times. He was so bad they had to put him in skits to goof because he couldn't do anything straight. Commentary, this is how good I got at repeating what Vince would say in our ear. Kevin Dunn rarely talked to us. Kevin Dunn, for all of his personal faults, because he's a jerk, big time, but he hired me on the spot. But he's the most talented producer that's ever walked God's green earth. He is the man behind WrestleMania. What you see at WrestleMania is Kevin Dunn. I will give him that respect. There's very few people that could do that. Vince I think he still wanted to be out there, but he understood he needed to kind of run. He's like, I used to call it the God position, the gorilla position, but the God position. I could repeat what he would say in my ear within a half a second, no more than a second, as he said it to me. Because if you didn't say it right when he said it, then he was going to scream at you. And he didn't care if JR was talking. He didn't care if Michael Cole was talking. And JR used to grab my arm and squeeze it so hard because he wanted me to shut up. Well, I would rather JR squeeze my arm hard than Vince yell at me when I got backstage. But sometimes I'll remember Tess, God rest his soul, I was saying something and I was going in the wrong direction because it's all about storytelling, right? And so I was saying something like, Tess is backing off. Why would you say that? Tess would never back off. You're killing his character. God damn it, coach. You're killing his character. So he's screaming that in your ear while you're still trying to call the match. So it was hard. But after I left WWE, everything I've ever done with a producer in my ear is like listening to Mr. Rogers compared to listening to Vince. So it was really hard. By the way, the Kane Pyro, people think that was staged. It was not. That was real. Now, what happened was Vince told me, I want you to be cocky. And we had just moved the announce table back up by the ramp. He goes, be cocky, put your feet up on the chair, have a good time, annoy JR. That's a quote, annoy JR. So that's when you see I put my feet up on there and I'm just leaning back. And sure enough, there's Kane's pyro, hot, loud, right on top of us. And I fell over, and it's one of the most viewed, skits or videos in WWE history. So it was really, really funny, but it was also very real.
Yeah, I've, as I said, I've been in that situation, not sitting on a commentary desk, obviously, but I've been in the one that always springs to mind. There was two with Kane, but I'll talk about the Raw one. I think it was the first Raw taping it was the first Raw taping the WWE ever done in the UK. It was in Manchester, England. I went over there, and it was the time when Snitsky had killed his baby, and Snitsky done yeah, I know. Snitsky had done a promo just before a match, and he said, and he ended it, and I'll never forget it. The end words were, "The only thing dead around here is your baby." The crowd in the arena they all went, oh, and it was a collective oh. And then a fatal four-way tag match had started, so that you're obviously positioned watching this. We're sort of tiered up on like the first tier and nearest the stage, and it's obviously, so we're watching the match, we're getting into it, and then all of a sudden that bang of the pyro, I'd literally jump out of my seat, my pants turn a different color of brown. And Kane's come out, but yeah, it was he's one of them. Batista's one used to get me.
Oh my god,
yeah, that one.
And by the way, you bring up a funny point. There are a lot of things that I love about my run. I feel like I was there the best 10 years in the history of the business, but there's a lot of things that I swear to you, I'm not kidding on my kids, I have forgotten about. Call it PTSD, call it embarrassment, whatever. This is so. Cody Rhodes was on. I was interviewing DDP. Cody Rhodes walked into the room just randomly. He goes, "Hey, coach, remember when we did this and this?" I did not even remember that I had been there when Cody Rhodes started. That's how much I've forgotten, because there's a lot of things that I knew in the moment we shouldn't be doing. I knew in the moment would be embarrassing for me, that the video would live all time. I'm very lucky that wrestling is now where it is, because those videos don't keep me from getting work. But those are the type of things that there's just so many that I'm sure Triple H and everybody else wishes they never would have done. Katie Vick will live on forever with Triple H. The most embarrassing day of my WWE career, and I was not even in the shoot. But I remember when they came back, the camera guys, who I'm very close with, they were embarrassed. They couldn't even look at people. They said, "You will not believe what Vince just made us shoot." And you saw in the documentary, Vince thought it was funny. He's like, he thought it was satire. I thought it was disgusting. And there were a lot of things like that. And the mind's a funny thing. But you could ask me about several things, and I could honestly sit here without lying to you and go, nope, that never happened, because my mind doesn't remember it. So it's unfortunate.
It is, yeah. I mean, you can mention the Mae Young giving birth to Mark Henry's hand.
Oh my god!
And stuff
Oh my god! Oh my
back
god!
further than that, but yeah. A couple of WrestleMania memories that I wanted to sort of get your opinion on more than anything else. Sure. The biggest one, and it's still the one to this day for me that should never have happened, and I get why it did, but still, take a streak. And I'm going to ask you a question on it, two questions on it. One, should it have ended? And two, is that the moment for you? Because I'm going to tell you it is the moment for me where WrestleMania lost its spark.
Hold on. No wonder this is falling out. Now we feel better. Okay. Okay. Oh, that's a lot better. I can hear you a lot better now. I love that guy. I love that guy. He there's a lot of things that mean a lot to me in the WWE. There's a lot of moments. WrestleMania a lot of times is about passing the torch.
Yeah.
When you see somebody lose in the main event, Rock and Austin, Rock leans over, thank you. Yeah. Austin's done, right? And to me, there are certain things that don't have to happen. And when people talk about the Undertaker's streak, why would it have been so bad? Why would it have been so bad if he retired from WrestleMania undefeated?
Yeah.
Why would it have been so bad? It wouldn't have been. But the traditions of wrestling is always paying it goes to 25 and whatever, 25 and 1, 26 and 1. Think about that for a second too. Being in that many
Yeah.
WrestleMania matches was absolutely crazy. But to me, you could have had one of the biggest. Andre the Giant's legacy will never be touched. Will
Yeah.
never be touched. You could have had the Undertaker right next to Andre the Giant. That when you think about him and you tell your kids about him and you go to the WrestleMania museum or wherever and you're like, man, kids, this man never lost. And then you put together all the videos against all the guys that he fought against, because people don't realize what he, and you're seeing a little bit with these documentaries and stuff, but I saw it with my own two eyes in real time. This man, I'm talking from probably his 10th on, knees bad, hips bad, taking these huge needles in the knee just to drain and he was willing to do that. So why couldn't you do for him what he was willing to do for you, Vince? And that was create an aura where people thought this guy's the greatest WrestleMania person of all time. So to me, it didn't have to end. It just didn't. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I think because everything for me was like, okay, WrestleMania's coming up. So who's going to be the main? Oh, who's the? That was the first thing. Like, who was it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
maybe I wouldn't have been too bothered about him losing it if I agreed with the person that beat him. Don't get me wrong, nothing against Brock. Brock's an absolute animal. You know, believability, which is a key thing we said.
There you go. Yes.
Believability, absolutely, Brock would beat him. So I understand that. But for me, Brock didn't need to beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. That was my thing.
I'm so glad that you said that, because everybody is different. And we always like to use that term. Do they need to be a champion? Do they need that title? Does it elevate them? And for some people, it does. For Brock Lesnar, he is, and for anybody who's never been around him, a lot of people haven't, I'm telling you right now, the scariest human being I've ever been around in my life. That literally, if he wanted to kill you, there's nothing you can do about it. But I also saw Kurt Angle in his prime stretch Brock Lesnar in the ring in the middle of the afternoon. That was never on video. But the other part of this is Brock is very, very savvy. He's got a high wrestling IQ. Everybody thinks, you hear the stories, oh, he rushed out of the building, he threw the belt at Vince, he was pissed off by this. He does business.
Yeah.
Because he knows if he does business, he makes a ton of money, can disappear for a year, and then come back and do it all over again. So the believability, there's nobody in the WWE that in a real fight outside of a prime Kurt Angle could legitimately beat Brock Lesnar. Yeah. So when I hear people say, well, he was pissed, he's too hard to work with. No, if he was hard to work with, Adam, he never would have lost.
Yeah.
And he lost several times. So you're absolutely right. He didn't need to beat The Undertaker because he was the beast. And I'm telling you, he earned every bit of that. I never saw one person, not one, ever cross him, ever even talk nasty to him. And I shudder to think the people in the UFC that beat him, I didn't think there was a human being walking God's green earth that was tougher than him, and he lost in the UFC. That is very, very scary to me. That's very scary to me. But I have a lot of respect for Brock, a lot.
Oh, definitely. I think his first match, he was just a rookie mistake in the UFC to get, I think it was the ankle
to get caught.
Yeah. Yep. That was just a rookie. Yep. And the last one was there was a lot of he had diverticulitis, which is a debilitating illness. So moving on from somebody that has never main evented a WrestleMania yet, made a big deal out of it, left. Went to AEW, got fired, went back, got fired again, and then for whatever reason, and then probably done the most unthinkable thing, which is CM Punk returned. Obviously, Chicago Survivor Series, massive, brilliant way of doing it. By the way, it was a great, with Punk, he's seemingly, and I've said this to a couple of people I interviewed, he's seemingly enjoying himself in the WWE at this moment in time. Obviously, things can change. There's a lot of good stuff that I like about his feuds because there is always that line, and Drew's done a great job of kind of, crossing it a little bit. Seth's done a great job when he stops singing and stops wearing his wife's clothes of doing that. doing that bit of crossing line because of that and I always think if there's a personal if there's that personal issue, sometimes it becomes better because there is that line, and are they crossing it between reality and fiction? But with you what you've seen of Punk, do you think that he's gone back and he is actually enjoying himself more so now?
I would say that when there's a tinge of reality to
Mm.
it, that it makes it better. I would say all the time
Yeah.
it makes it better. I could tell you 3 or 4 personal issues that were very seedy, I guess, back in the day. That when Vince found out, he didn't shy away from it. In fact, he put those 2 guys in the ring together several times. And there's one very famous story that I hate dirt sheets, but I'm not going to say the names because I don't want to bring it back up after 20 years. But it was a nasty, nasty situation, and Vince made it into a storyline, and the fights were amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this: CM Punk is 46 years old,
Yeah.
and I've gotten into my 40s, and I think when you have a chance to have 10 years away at the age that he was at, and then you get pulled back in by a really big paycheck with AEW, and you're with guys that you don't respect, that was destined to fail. But he had to take that because he hadn't really made any money for 10 years. You know, he made about $1 million from the UFC, but not a lot. But he's also a guy that if you say, who would never be able to come back to WWE? Because during my 10 years, Stone Cold Steve Austin came and went 4 or 5 times. JR came and went 4 or 5 times. This is not the NFL. It's not Major League Baseball. This is not, hey, you leave and you can't ever come back. But you do, when you come back, have to change some. You can't just come back and be the same asshole you were 10 years ago when you blew up your spot, and then you also blew up other people's spot when you were there. He's another guy that I actually worked with and didn't remember. It's crazy. So now I saw a video the other day at one of the house shows in Europe. And I don't know if you saw this or not, but he was sitting there on the ring apron.
Oh, with Cody. Yeah.
With Cody. I encourage everybody to go watch that video because this is a business. And I've had several of these moments that, and this may sound morbid, but I've had a lot of people pass away in the last 20 to 25 years in the wrestling business. I always live now with, I don't know how long I'm going to live. That's why I do it. Like right now, this is the most important time I've ever had. Me and you, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Because moments are moments to me. And I think that CM Punk has realized, 1, I could have had this for 10 years. 2, this is where I was always supposed to be. 3, I did all of that, bashed everybody, told everybody where they could go, and somehow Triple H give him a lot of credit. And you're going to see the interview with Stephanie coming up on Stephanie's Places. I don't know where it's going to air for you guys, but ESPN here in the States. And he talks about that conversation with CM Punk when he wanted to come back. And Vince, one of the things I respect about Vince is he always puts business first.
Yeah.
He famously, Brett punched him in the face. Vince felt like he did business by taking the title off of him. So Triple H learned from Vince. And if CM Punk is good for business, and clearly he is worked main event storylines with Drew, then Seth. And Seth legitimately does not like CM Punk. But I think that Seth could learn a lot from CM Punk because Seth is a guy that, to me, is more worried about how he dresses, instead of what we talked about earlier. Well, this guy just did, why don't I come out and beat his ass, but I'll do my whole big spiel on the intro because that's what makes me feel good. And then he's also got I don't know if they're married or not, but Becky Lynch, that for a year, she's to me one of the top 2 females of all time.
Yeah.
And she teased it a year ago. Well, this isn't the last you've seen of me. Then she's in all these photo shoots. He has to deal with that. And so I think there's a lot of turmoil going on with Seth Rollins. So who's been here to pick up the pieces? And it's very telling because during the Drew McIntyre feud, CM Punk won almost every single match that they had.
Yeah.
Because Drew does business. And it was good for storyline. I think he is at a point in his life that he understands he's got probably 4 or 5 really good years left where he can work at a consistent rate. And then maybe he could be an agent. Maybe he could be a commentator. But now I think this is going to be his home until he decides he doesn't want to do it anymore. And I, for one, love to see it because in life, I don't like to see anybody get canceled
No.
or not be able to do what they're great at. And he's, as the saying goes, the best in the world.
He is. He is indeed. I think NXT was the place that he wanted to, well, rumored, and dirt sheets say that that's where he's looking to go next. And you're right about the importance thing. And, just to touch on illness, I unfortunately had heart failure a couple of years ago. So every
Wow.
podcast that I do is massively I feel safe, great to be here. It cost me All In one, by the way. So not forgot that. I was meant to go to All In. It happened literally like a week before All In.
Wow.
And I couldn't.
Guess what? Guess what? My dad 6 years ago had a heart transplant.
Oh, wow.
My dad has a second heart in his body right now, and that changed my mindset a lot on a lot of things. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you went through that. I'm glad that you're still here and you're able to do this.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Coach. As we go to wrap up, last couple of questions, and then I want to get to see what you're doing. And it's mainly a prediction bit here because WrestleMania, a few matches have been announced, and if there's anyone I want to get a prediction for, it's someone that's been there, seen it and done it. So let's start with, okay, you mentioned the women on there. Tiffany Stratton, Charlotte Flair is the match that's been confirmed at the minute. There is the other women's one, kind of not quite there yet. So in that one, does Tiffany have a moment to shine, or does Charlotte become still the queen again?
They'll give Tiffany a moment to shine, but unfortunately for Tiffany Stratton, she's shown the last couple of weeks, she's just not on the level of a Charlotte Flair. She's not there yet. And what I want people to understand on the mic, in the ring, physically, she's got the tools, but it's been unfortunate because I think that Triple H and the agents need to sit her down, work with her, increase her ring rate. But I say this all the time: if you can't talk, you can't get over. And right now, when she's in there with Charlotte, it is an absolute mismatch every step of the way, physically, emotionally, verbally. If they don't give the belt for Charlotte to then run with it for another 2 or 3 years, I think it's a severe mistake.
There you go. So Charlotte, you predicting Charlotte for that one. Let's get to the aforementioned triple threat: CM Punk, Rollins, and Reigns. Is the favor going to be cashed in here? What do you even know what the favor could be, and who's the winner of that?
Here's my prediction for this one: is that the favor will not play into it. Paul Heyman will play into it. Imagine if this happens. You've got a triple threat that none of the three guys want to lose at WrestleMania. Let's be honest. They all have egos.
Yep.
And right now, Roman's in a match saying, wait a second, I'm the biggest star in the world. I win this match. CM Punk say no. So as they're all fighting, this one doesn't have a finish. Do you know why?
No.
Because Brock Lesnar comes out of nowhere. And Paul Heyman says, Roman, CM Punk, I'm with my original. That would be, that would absolutely bring the house down. And he just F5s everybody. Just F5 after F5 after F5, leaves them all laying. And Paul Heyman says, yep, I told all of you. Now, the only caveat to that is I do believe Paul loves being with Roman in real life and behind the curtain. But that would be absolutely amazing.
It would be. I'm going to write it. I'm going to clip this because if it happens, you're going to need to make sure.
Would that be amazing? Would that be amazing?
That would. Let's talk the Gunther Jey Uso match. A lot of bit of controversy whether Jey deserves the thing that they've played into the mishap with the slip this week on Raw. If this was, again, we go back to if this was real, in my opinion, Gunther absolutely destroys him. I've known him for a long time over here in the UK. But do you think they're going to run with Jey Uso winning that world title at WrestleMania?
The only thing that you're going to see run, whether it's night one or night two, is people to the bathroom and to get their merchandise during this match. I am quite sure that Gunther's a very nice man, but he is the most boring wrestler to me on the roster. And he reminds me of Steven Regal. And I was there with Steven Regal. I was a tag team champion with William Regal, Steve, whatever name he wanted to go by. I don't like the technical stuff. I like the entertaining, and I don't think he's that great on the mic. They have to let Jey Uso run with it. They cannot keep the title on Gunther because Triple H, and I was there the night that unfortunately this happened. WrestleMania 18, Triple H and Vince decided the World Heavyweight title's got to be elevated. So it's got to go last. There's no way it's going last at WrestleMania this time. No. But if you're the World Heavyweight Champion, because people forget Triple H and Jericho fought after Rock and Hogan. because he was a world heavyweight champion. And
Yeah.
so to me, Jey Uso has the crowd behind him, and I think it would do a lot for him if they allow him to run with it. And we'll see. But he has to win. He has to win.
Yeah, he's over as well, which helps. The crowd love him. They love yeeting and doing all of this stuff, which is great.
Yeah, they love it. Yeah,
they do. And the final match that's obviously at time of recording, anyway. Bear in mind this goes out. I know that you guys are going to be watching this near at Mania, but the final match at time of recording is the aforementioned John Cena, Cody Rhodes. Will The Rock get involved? We don't know. Does Cena walk out 17 times? Does Ric Flair get involved now after what's happened this week? Does John Cena walk out 17-time world champion?
Stop it with Ric Flair. Just stop it with Ric Flair.
I don't want to either.
I can't watch him try to. And I love Ric Flair. We used to be so close. We were so close. I would type his letters during his first divorce, not the second and third one, but the first divorce, because I love this guy. But Ric Flair, God bless him, still believes in he's 79. What is he, 76, 77 years old? Yeah. He damn near died from, and he's still out there pushing out going, I got one more in me. No, you don't. But the legend that could be involved is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yes.
But here's the thing. He was supposed to be involved a year ago, and they didn't match his price. He's the one guy that if you don't pay him enough and he thinks Undertaker's making more, I want to make the same as the Undertaker. So Stone Cold is going to be in Vegas. He's going to sign autographs. He'll be there. I think they could get him involved somehow. John Cena has to beat Cody. It's good for both sides because then John Cena can say, listen, I was willing to sell my soul for The Rock and win number 17. The WWE does not want Ric Flair to be the face of the most championships. They just don't. And again, I love Flair, but Cena is the guy. He's Mr. Make-A-Wish. He's Mr. Kid. He's Mr. So having John Cena as the most decorated champion, that's what they want behind the scenes. I promise you that. And then it allows for The Rock potentially at SummerSlam to either win and then lose it to Cody, or Cody wins it back, and then Cena can flip and go back to being a babyface for the final 4 months. And then his last night, I believe, is going to be Saturday night's main event, December 13th. Everybody will be back with him, and he will ride off into the sunset in a blaze of glory. But he wins. You can't have all this buildup and have Cody keep the title. You just can't. You need the next 4 months of storyline. But the other part of this is, Adam, I don't know how much he's going to be around the next 4 months. Yeah. So that's going to be a dicey thing.
It is. He's advertised, I think, for the Raw and SmackDown after WrestleMania. Then I don't know after that. But Coach, look, it's been wonderful. Honestly, I've loved every second of it. But before we go, tell everyone, where can they find you? What have you got coming up? I know you're a busy man, so go right ahead.
So I appreciate that. I've got a new role with the PFL, which is a worldwide, kind of like the UFC, but we're on ESPN here in the States. Kind of a hybrid executive talent role. We start our big world tournament Thursday, April 3rd, all the way through April. So I have that. We have 12 or 14 events I'll go to for that. I work with the PGA Tour. I do a lot of golf, if you can believe it. But on my own, I'm still in the world of wrestling. I have a show with Vince Russo called The Coach and Bro Show. That's on our BTT YouTube page. And then I have two big shows on a big network, Amazon Prime, DirecTV, Stadium here in the States. We have a betting show called The Coaching Company. People in England can watch on our YouTube page. But then also we have The Last Word. It's our show right after Monday Night Raw. Big Tommy Carlucci, 32 years in the WWE. He's my partner. And this incredibly talented female named Gabby Laspisa. So we're super busy with all of that. But we really are thrilled to be a part of it. We're thrilled to still be in the wrestling business. We're thrilled to be able to do these shows, these entertaining shows. And if I could do what I'm doing right now for the rest of my career, I feel like I have 25 to 30 really good years left. Then I'm going to be very, very happy.
Definitely. So look, we'll go and check all that out. And lastly, WWE, when you think of Hall of Fame members, there's one right there.
I don't know if that'll ever happen. I don't know if I would accept.
I really don't. Vince Russo said no. Russo said no. He did.
I have my reasons without disrespecting anybody that's in. There is no actual Hall of Fame, first and foremost. And the second thing is, for all the Hall of Famers that deserve it, every year they check a box, and they go, all right, we got to have that female. We got to have this guy. We got to have this. And to me, if you're a Hall of Famer, it's got to be, everybody's got to be, guaranteed. I did enough in so many different roles. over 10 years, I think I would deserve it. But then there's other people that are like, oh, really? And I don't want to be a part of that conversation. So I would probably say no, but with all due respect to those that are already in.
Definitely. So we'll end it there. Coach, thank you so much for that. It's been great to have you on. Guys, check us out, HTT Buckle on X, HTT Buckle on YouTube, Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast on all other social media outlets. We'll be hitting 1,000 episodes very, very soon. We look forward to that. Coach, it's been great. Thank you so much for your time. Guys, that is it on Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast from the coach, Jonathan Coachman. I have been your host, Adam Cousins. And until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.